Hi, welcome everybody. This is Gifty from Baller Mom. Let's pause. Okay, it's been great so far with so many different guests that has come and shared a lot of things that most of us as parents have been thinking of. We've had people that come there about how what they look for when they're scouting, education in terms of doing your SATs. We've had someone that come there to talk about technology and also media. So I'm always trying to bring as much information to our community as much as possible so that we can think beyond just raising student athletes, just raising kids or kids that just love to play sports. Today's special guest is going to be Sharon Butler. And if you Google search her, you will know all the accolades that she has, who has been involved with basketball here in Canada for so many years, well respected. And allow me to send her the invite, and I will be able to have her join me, and we can all continue to get to know more about her. And Sharon, I know we were just talking a little bit earlier, so if you're able to join, that would be great. Thank you to everyone that's joining so far. We have Underrated, 3AS Sola joined. I appreciate you all. And again, this is going to be an open discussion, so if anybody have any questions, put it into the chat. Okay, let me see, it's going live, so if you hear me or you see me, please do let me know. I'm trying to request to join, and let's go. Coach Mom, let's see. And then she's going to join us right away. And today being Wednesday here in Toronto, I always start off with the weather. So I hope everybody has been able to enjoy the weather as much as we have here. It's nice and warm, so I can't complain. Sharon, I see that you joined. So if you are able to accept my invite, that would be great. And then we can get the ball rolling and everybody get to see who you are, what you're about. And if people have questions, they can go ahead and ask. So yes, good evening. Good evening.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Wow. So how's your day going so far?
Day has been good. Started my first day of vacation, so it's kind of nice just to focus in on some me time and some downtime.
That's good. That's good. And you're looking forward to the holidays then?
Absolutely.
You finished your Christmas shopping?
Yeah, I have a confession. I don't do a ton of Christmas shopping. I haven't done for a while. I usually give my young people their money and they decide what they'd like to do with it.
So is that what it has come down to? Oh my goodness. All right.
Yeah, no, we started that tradition a while back. And I just find, they know what they want, they know what they like. So
good.
I like it's just easier. How about you? Sorry, I'm trying to adjust my
good.
light.
I'm still shopping. There's always one or two things left to do. Right. But it's so early this year. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the holidays, to take a break and also have some time to relax and sleep in, turn off the alarm for a change. I'm always up at 6 o'clock, so it'd be nice to just sleep in till 7 if possible.
I won't tell you what time I wake up, but they say successful people.
I think I have an idea based on the text messages I get, so that's okay.
I hope it's muted.
Yeah,
sometimes
it's okay.
I just send it off just so I can get it off my plate. But yeah,
I agree.
Early starts to the day.
You know what? However you start is great, because at the end of the day, we just want to get things done, right?
Absolutely.
And also, there's so many different people joining in. I'm sure they want to get to know a little bit more about who you are. And like I said earlier, if you don't know Sharon Butler, please Google search, Bing search, Yahoo search, whatever search it is. You will search it. You will get tons of information that come in. But I want you to introduce who you are to those that are watching, especially for some of our audience that are in the States. Get to know you, what service you provide, and how we can connect with you. So who is Miss Sharon Butler?
Miss Sharon Butler is what you see is what you get. So no, I am the founder of Coach Mom Inc. I am a mother of 3 boys, and that's really, to some degree, how Coach Mom got started. The youngest of 3 wanted to play high-level basketball, and going through that journey with him. It's, how Coach Mom started. I tell folks that I'm an accidental entrepreneur. Certainly did not, you are taking the kids to all these different practices. They started off playing tackle football and soccer and basketball. So schlepping them around as the Uber that we've become
Yes.
to different practices it's how I became, this was formed or this was created. I'm a level 3 coach, basketball coach in Canada.
Yeah.
So I like to clarify to people it's coach for a reason. It's not just a fancy name.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to coach at the college level, coached at George Brown College, did that for about 15 seasons.
Wow.
Played university basketball as well, played at the University of Toronto, and played netball. So for those of you who don't know that sport, by all means, go Google it and do
Yes.
whatever search engine you use. Great
Yep.
team sport. That was one of my very, very first sport. Born in Jamaica, so that's why netball was very popular in the Commonwealth countries. And yeah, when I immigrated to Canada, I, saw this game basketball, and you're like, man, what is this? Very similar to netball. And
Somewhat,
that's,
yeah.
yeah, and that's how I started playing. But yeah, Coach Mom really is, I created it as a source of information and education to support young student athlete. And I will always emphasize student athlete. I always
Yes.
like to remind them that they're students first,
First.
athlete
Yeah.
second. They don't ask for, they don't ask for athlete student, they ask for student athlete. And
Mm-hmm.
it's to help them, one, navigate this whole basketball development, sports development. And I say sports because obviously it goes beyond just basketball, for example, but just how to navigate that academically and athletically. And that is where it all started, is really
Wow.
teaching the support system, whoever that is, mom, dad, uncle, grandma, auntie, tita, whichever, and the
Yeah.
student athlete themselves, how to navigate this very, very, very slippery slope and very confusing environment
Yes.
at times.
Very, very confusing. And you know what? As I still in my early stages of learning it, it is helpful to know that there are people out there who have taken the time to read, understand, and have the patience to answer some of these questions that we get or we have but don't know where to go, especially for parents whose kids are here in Canada and
Mm.
trying to go to the States. And as much as we, and as I said in all these previous other guests I have ever mentioned, if you're Canadian going there, you're competing with European athletes as well too. They consider us to be international. Buffalo is an hour and a half away, but we are international for whatever reason. So
Yeah.
that bucket, we're in there trying to get the same thing with everybody else. So we appreciate, especially you, that takes that time to understand it and have that patience to answer questions when people have regards to how do I even navigate it. So let's take a step back. And I'm
Mm.
starting with any of these people that are watching, people that are going to watch later. Some of them maybe are, already in grade 12, grade 13, or whatever grade it is. For, let's say, a parent whose child is just starting rep. They saw
Mm-hmm.
it, they did a little bit of house league, and now they're doing competitive. And they are thinking, oh, wow, this is something that we can go forward to. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
they see, like Steph made all these
Steph
accolades
Curry.
yesterday. Oh my
Yeah.
God, my kid, he can shoot three. They can do
Yeah.
that. But I want
Yeah.
to be able for them to go to school there in the States. What is the basic first thought that parents should be check first before they even start delving themselves into saying, oh yeah, yeah, I'm gonna send you to a school in the States without even knowing which state they're gonna go to. Like,
Mm.
as a
Yeah.
first cautionary thing to be mindful
Mm-hmm.
of, regardless of the kid's talents or anything like that.
Yeah, I always try to encourage folks to manage that expectations. And I get it, you don't know what you don't know. So how can I manage my expectation? I see my kids hitting a lot of shots, so they're good. What does that mean, especially when they're young? For
Mm-hmm.
example, I guess the best advice I can give folks is, do your research,
Yeah.
and also incorporate folks in your circle that have knowledge and have some experience with respect to, has gone through that pathways
Yes.
before, that can, truthfully tell you, because this road is ever winding and ever bumpy. I don't think I've ever met, including my own child, a student athlete that has had the most fantastic straight path ever, right, to playing post-secondary basketball, whether it's in the States, in Canada, for example. It is at a very bumpy road. So, do a lot of research. I would
Mm-hmm.
say for those in the younger age group, on my website, coachmom.net, I do have a transition guide from elementary to high school. And it just sort of outlines some of the things that you need to pay attention to, in terms of obviously getting them in really good habits academically, making sure they're
Yes.
getting those homework done, for example, and start to learn to advocate and, speak for themselves with teachers, of course, with you supporting as
Mm-hmm.
well. And of course, if you're starting to play on rep teams, for example, communicate with your coaches. Usually we ask you to, ask your coaches a ton of questions. Well, what's your program about? How do you plan on helping my, young athlete develop, for example? Because
Yep.
all the way through, it is about development. And, that's some of the downfall in North America. I can't speak of anywhere else. I live in North America, is we love to play, but sometimes development takes a bit of a backseat, which is
Yes.
not the right approach in my humble opinion. Really need to make
Yep.
sure that they're developing.
They're developing. I think that is such a
Mm-hmm.
key point because no one gets to number two without starting off from number one. Yes, and I think it's fair to say that some people or some kids are born naturally athletic, while others have to learn and maneuver their body and mindset and learn it. It's like learning math in school. I mean, not
Yeah.
everybody is a math genius, but we know the basics of it, and then you can tell the difference between the levels of who really is like a genius versus who is just starting off with it. So
Mm-hmm.
I love that advice in terms of just research and understand where your child level is. And the key point you also mentioned is have the kid be comfortable enough to advocate for themselves. Correct. So, with that being said, when they approach you, and I'm sure you probably get a lot of people messaging you on your Instagram and coming to you, how do you divide it up into and realize if is this an adult talking to me or is this a child
Mm-hmm.
talking to me so
Yeah.
that you can take the next step to help them out, because I get that too and I have a way to sort of break through it, but
Yeah.
without throwing anybody off, because your account is there, it's public, you're there to share the info, but how do you deviate it and say, okay, is this a child, is it a teenager, is it an adult, or is it a parent, so I can
Mm-hmm.
take that next step? So if I send you a DM, how
Yeah.
would you go about to make sure we take that next step?
Yeah, that's a really good question because that's also a pet peeve of mine. So yes, you're right. I get contacted a lot by young people. And one of the first thing I do is, I go back into your Instagram to see who is this that I'm speaking to. Now, obviously, maybe folks can use other folks' Instagram. I don't know. But I typically, I ask the question immediately, right? Does your
Yeah.
parents know that you're connecting and reaching out with me, reaching
Yes.
out to me? Some
Yep.
of them will say yes. I'm like, that's great. Get them to contact me and then we'll take
Yep.
those next steps. I think
Yep.
that's super important. I started to say this as part of my pet peeve because, coaches, and I'm talking all level coaches, slide into, student athletes DM, and it's like, you need to speak to the adult. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Obviously, if a student athlete is in the later grades wanting to get recruited to post-secondary, yes, it's expected that coaches are going to reach out. I'm not talking collegiate coaches are going to
Mm-hmm.
reach out to them, but I'm talking elementary school, grade 9, even grade 10. The first question should be, can I connect with your parents?
Yep.
I get it. They're not going to have the parents' contact information, but the athlete's DM is there. Great, but they should be asking for that right away. But yes, I absolutely right away, like within the first 30 seconds, is get your parents to reach out to me.
Yep.
Even here's my number. Get them to call me, and then we can set up a time to connect.
To connect. I like that. So
Mm-hmm,
for all the
mm-hmm.
other younger athletes that are watching, and yes, it's great to have these great big dreams, but it's a journey, and your parents have to be part of this. It's not just you. At the end of the day, it's not even just you doing the payments. So
Mm-hmm.
make sure that the individuals in your family, the leaders or the adults that's part of it, is part of this journey and reaching out to Coach Mom to be able to start that conversation. It's great to take the initiative, but always reach back so that it's a unity, it's a family thing. So I get that all the time. And I always just say, okay, I need your mom's contact. I need your dad's contact. Whoever it is that is the adult that is driving you to these practices and games, I need to reach out and speak with them so that we can make that unity conversation to see where it is you want to go with. You spoke a little bit about how you journey from, being a parent and your child wanted to play and you had to go through that whole process and learn it and became the birth of Coach Mom came through, which is great. Now, for those who are now saying, okay, I've been playing for many years now. I want to take the next step. I was here in this team. I was here in that team. My parents don't have this money. Coach Mom, how do I even get into prep school? Because I'm going to a regular Catholic school. I'm going to a regular public school in high school. I don't have the extra funds to get into prep school. How do they do that? What are some of the tips or steps that you will help them to understand the difference between getting to a prep school versus going to a regular school and the benefits or the pros and cons between that?
Yeah, really good question, and it's a loaded question.
Yes,
No
sorry,
doubt
I
prep
tend to put a
school.
lot in one circle. Sorry about that.
No. Oh, don't apologize. It's great. Yeah, prep school has grown tremendously over, in Canada over the last, 10 years. I mean, I've been in this game for approximately 7, and I've seen the huge transition, even in the amount of prep schools.
Yes.
It is a business, so that's the first thing that parents and student athlete need to understand. It is a business, right?
Yeah.
And so depending on the type of prep schools there are, the cost is going to fluctuate. Now, your skill set is one of those that can help determine whether somebody could get, and I won't necessarily say a free ride or a full scholarship. I like to say in high school, prep school, we talk about financial aid. We don't really talk about scholarships yet. Scholarship discussions happens in the post-secondary, segment. But realistically speaking, your skill set can determine whether or not a coach says, I really like your game. And of course, you're open, your parents, your family, your support system is open to say, we don't have a lot of money. Then coaches may say, okay, no problem. We'll work it out. We'll make something work. Whether you can pay a really smaller amount, because at the end of the day, let's face it, right? It's a business and it needs to operate. You need, you need uniforms. You need to travel for exposure. All of these pieces are needed. And then it depends too, if it's a regular high school or is it a private type school, right? That costs money to enter those schools. For example, yes, some of those schools have financial aid. Some might give you $0. Very rare do they do that, but some might. So it's also about negotiating, but your skill set and also your academics and also who you are as a person, because you are asking coaches or a program to take you in, to develop you, to educate you, to provide exposure for you. So they want to make sure that you're worth it at the end of the day. Let's face it.
Yeah.
Yes, they want to develop you as a young person, but at the end of the day, they want to also get their program on the map. Right? They want to provide
return on your investment.
Return on the investment, for example. So that's one way, is in terms of that skill set. Also, maybe somebody in your circle that might know somebody might be able to talk to a coach and help you out. Again, I'll be frank. One of the first conversations I have with families is this journey costs money, right? It really does. And so now you even yourselves as a family need to look inside your family system and, okay, where can we save money to potentially put towards this? I have 3 boys. The youngest of 3 wanted to play this high level ball. I had to sit down the other 2. Doesn't mean I skimmed from them, because whatever sports they wanted to play, there were fees, there were shoes, there were uniforms. But once the youngest started to play at a higher level, and now we're going to the States a lot and going to these camps and doing these tournaments, right? That's a frank conversation I had to have with the boys to say, listen, this is going to take some extra dollars. We can't eat out as much, right? I'm not going to be buying you a pair of shoes every other day, right? Let's be real about this, for example. And of course, the same thing I would do with, of course, the other 2 boys. for example. So those are some of the conversations, and some of them are difficult conversations. The one thing before I end here that I want to say is sometimes family will say, well, I know that I'm financing this other kid that's on the team because I know that kid or that family might not have money. Yeah, you're right. You might be financing. And guess what? That young person might be the one that's bringing coaches into the gym. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. You're going to decide what you can handle and what you can't handle. But yes, you're right. Some programs will say, okay, you pay 5,000, you pay 15,000, you pay $30, 13,000 or 30,000. The reality is sometimes it's based on your financial situation. So
Okay.
some schools expect if you can pay more, you're going to pay more. If you have to pay less, then they work that through amongst the team because again, it is a business.
It is a business. Okay, so touching on point about the financial side though, depending on what value, how much a parent is paying, does that also determine how much playtime or exposure that their child will get then? Because if I'm paying
Absolutely
20,000
not.
and somebody's paying 5,000, am I expected to get more playtime versus the one paying $5,000, or does it matter? Once you're in a team, regardless of how much you're paying, it's a teamwork.
I like to say prep school is not an equal opportunity. It really
Okay.
isn't, right?
Okay.
And at the end of the day, and this is where the coach side comes in. And I say the coach side comes in the sense of what you do in practices is going to have me trust you to put you on the basketball court, period. Right?
Okay.
So
Repeat that. Yeah.
what you demonstrate to me in practices, that's where I'm going to start to feel comfortable to say, okay, you understand the offense, you understand the defense, you understand what we're trying to accomplish, you understand the assignment, as young people love to say, then absolutely, I'm going to
Yeah.
give you an opportunity to get on the court, right? Again, this is higher level ball now. So the because I pay this much, should I be getting? But these are questions you're going to ask coaches, right? Before
Mm-hmm.
you join program. What's the expectation? What level do you think my son is at? I will also talk to families to say your son is developmental. So
Okay.
they're not, I can put them on this team or get them access to this team. If the coach likes them, I will also be very open and honest with the coaches to say, I already know he's developmental or she's developmental,
Mm-hmm.
right? But to your initial question, Gifty, with respect to, regular high school and prep school, the trend is if you want to play post-secondary ball, you are in a prep school. That's where coaches are recruiting from. I'm not saying
Okay.
there's no exceptions to the rule.
Okay.
Very few exceptions to the rule. If you look at the NBA players, if you look at the WNBA players, what was their pathway? Prep school to then
Yeah.
get to their collegiate level, to then get to Europe or overseas or the WNBA and NBA, for example, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
the high school game has definitely gotten diluted. OFSA, we've seen conversation about OFSA. They're
Yeah.
non-existent. I mean, school ball is kind of non-existent. I mean, it's there, but God knows
It's
what
not
COVID is going
as
to
it
do.
used to be before. Yeah.
Absolutely not. So,
COVID, gyms, travels, schools, all the cases. It's kind of a standstill for 2 years now, which is another point that there are some, you know, athletes that saying, I wish I can get there, but for now, I don't want to switch because I'm okay in I want to get my academics alone. Can the academics alone and them playing on a competitive team help them get into a prep school? Is that one avenue? Because I know you were saying there's no one pathway, but is that one
yeah.
other option?
So, well, the question is it about, getting into prep school? Because most people either come from a regular high school into a prep school.
Mm-hmm.
Collegiate level, though, that's a different
A
story.
different
Yes,
topic. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, of course, post-secondary also gives, especially in the States, they give athletic scholarship and, of course, academic. Here in Canada, primarily academic. Some schools, east and west, out east and out west, at the collegiate level does give some financial aid for
Okay.
the athletic piece. Ontario, it's primarily academic, but if you make a team, coaches can say, come and work the basketball camp, and that'll give you money. Or there's
Mm-hmm.
work study, for example. But going from a regular high school to a prep school, that's okay, and that's
That's
normal
okay.
because
Okay.
because some people will say, I don't want to go into a prep school that early. I'll go
Yeah.
in at grade 11. So I'll go to my regular high school, but at the same time, it's a catch-22 because regular high school basketball is diluted. And
It's
if you're
yeah,
trying to play high level ball, folks are trying to get in sooner rather than later.
yeah.
So it really is very based on the family and the individual and what is it that they're looking for. But kids are getting more competitive younger.
Yes, they
I'm seeing
are.
grade
Yes.
4, grade 5, grade 6, and I'm like, what?
Yes.
The skill
So,
set on some of those kids is incredible.
yeah. Can we talk sports as my son went to a prep school? Yes. Hello, can we talk sports, moms? It's true. So, with the younger age though, because I'm in both categories. I'm a little bit older and a little bit younger, and it's a beast, sadly, which is
Hmm.
in a good way and it's a bad way. And I think in the early stages, one of my first questions I asked was, how early is it or too soon is it to actually specialize or have it, your student or your child actually specialize in that particular sports? I mean, we're all growing and I still have dreams and hopes of something that I want to do when I grow up. I'm still growing, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
from that dream of hopes of trying to get there, knowing how competitive it is, knowing your experience and the years that you've gone through and the ups and downs, like what would you say or to the parents who are thinking, I want you to specialize in that way? Like what's your feedback on that part of it?
yeah. So I also refer to this in that transition guide from elementary
Yes.
school to high school, talking
Yeah.
about specialization. I still am of the belief that if you're in elementary school, you can still be playing multiple sport as
Yeah.
well, because it's those skill sets from other sports and those muscle groups that you're incorporating in other sports that's going to also help you in basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Really, once you hit grade 9, for sure, the specialization really does begin, right?
Yes.
And because now basketball is becoming so popular, right? I read this years ago that basketball for youth is more popular than even hockey.
Yeah.
It surpassed hockey in
We're
Canada.
getting actually more hockey players joining.
Exactly,
Yep.
exactly. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, people are pushing the boundaries. Now, the key with specialization for me is about who is in your support system that has the knowledge. So,
Okay.
if I'm going to be specializing early, the reality is, I'm going to a trainer. Is the trainer equipped? Are they really knowledgeable? Do they know about my developing body? Right?
Thank you.
I can incorporate weights, and I'm talking body weights and even
Mm-hmm.
small hand weights. Am I working with a subject matter expert that has gone to school for this piece, right? And
Thank
okay,
you.
fine. I'm not saying everybody's got to get a degree in everything. They could have lived experience and develop that way, but that education is important because I've got to
It,
know about
yep.
a bit about the anatomy. I've got to know about your body. I've got to
Yep.
know that what you're still growing. I've got to know that I can't superset you for every workout that you do because I'm going to hurt you,
Mm-hmm.
for example. So that expertise become really, really, really important. So
Yep.
when I talk to families, I tell them that I'm a connector in the work that I do. I do not know it all, nor do I profess to know it all, but I will, link my clients with, a trainer,
Yep.
for example, that I understand and that I know and that I trust, that knows the game
Mm-hmm.
itself, and that I will, link them with, somebody that does the physical development. So weights and agility training, for example. The other piece is also link into a mental health or mental support, right?
Yes.
Clinical
Yes.
psychologist, sports psychologist, because that's the next piece
That's the
that
piece. Yep.
unfortunately we kind of forget about, but
I
it's ever
agree.
so important right now, is to arm our young people in terms of, making sure they're resilient, because again, there is no straight path and there is
Mm-hmm.
going to be ups and downs.
Yes. Oh my God, such a good point. And these are the one of the main reasons why I'm always cautious when anybody try to come in and say, "Can you share this information?" Because you have to ask key questions. You have to know. At the end of the day, I mean, a 9-year-old making a top 10 list, that's great and all. Maybe by the time he gets 12 years old, they might not be interested because they didn't have the right coaches there or the right trainers with them. And another key point based on it is I'm not having them live my Miss dream. That's definitely a no. I have my own dreams and they have theirs and we're guiding them. So that's always my emphasis. So it's great. And key point that you also made about multi-sports disciplinary. It's so important. So for anyone here who, maybe you're 12, 14, or 10 thinking it's the only thing, basketball is the only sport. Yes, Raptors won. But if you ask most of these athletes, they were all playing, they're continuing to follow other sports too. So diversify yourself. Don't just stick to
Absolutely.
one. And even if it's not sports, do something else. Do coding, do math, do English, do acting, anything beyond just that one sport. And I appreciate that you share that because I like to hear from an expert too who's been in it and understanding and also from a mom's perspective. So it's not just one person always saying it. And it's hard. And I love the fact that you're truth because you speak it as it is. And there's no ifs and buts. So my next question is knowing that there's this younger age that are getting more competitive and they're growing, but we also have that middle gap of student athletes in there who may not be top tier, but they're also not low either. They're in the midst and they're still trying to find who they are. And, parents are wondering, especially with the pandemic when everything sort of shut down, a lot of them didn't get videos. They didn't get any games. They didn't get anything. They start questioning themselves. Aside from the mental health aspect of it, if a parent reach out to you, say, my son is or my daughter is in grade 11 or grade 12, and they missed their year, they're about to graduate, what are the options? Like, do you will guide them to assess what the next stage is so that they can decide, even if it's basketball or in addition to something else that they can do in terms of development and growing into that part of their life.
Yeah, I would hope by, grade 11, grade 12, you have a sense that, this is what I want to do, and
Mhm.
what's the path, versus I'm not sure if I want to do, because if you're not sure at that stage, then I'm going to say, well, take a minute and figure
Yeah.
that out, right? Because again, it requires money and it requires time. And I get it. It's not it's not a money matter for a lot of people, but it is for many, or I
Yes.
should say it's not a money matter for some, but it is for many.
Yeah.
Um, Realistically, that missed year and a half, 18 months has been a struggle. I mean, I do see that student athletes are bouncing back for sure from that, I guess in terms of mentality as well, but it's a grind. You have to keep working.
Yeah.
Um, One of the other things that I also recommend is, you know, often I get asked by parents, well, how do I know? A lot of times you don't, right? It's you're taking a chance on your young person. It's the same type of question I used to ask my kid. Mom, I want to go to prep school. First of all, what was prep school 7 years ago? Like what? I didn't
Yeah.
know that,
Yeah.
right? And that's how again I started to research that. But more importantly, it's like, listen, buddy, let's strike a deal.
Hmm.
Here's what I'm willing to do, but I also need to see, you need to, be giving me some outputs for me to continue to fund this, because it's
Yeah.
extracurricular, very extracurricular
Very,
that I
very.
that I
Yeah.
that I'm
Yeah.
funding. So, you are also taking a chance on this young people. But one of the important messages that I want to make sure that I impart here is more than often, it's not about the basketball. It's about who these young people become and the skill set and and fortifying their resiliency. What happens during this whole journey? And that is the
Hmm.
one thing I hear from people and parents and student athletes like, wow, I never imagined in a million years. Like this young person went to prep school and they're so organized now and they're so this. At first, I was so
The
worried because they could
discipline.
yeah,
Yeah.
they wouldn't even make a bed, they wouldn't even wash a dish, and then all of a sudden, they are in this prep environment or they go away for a year and it's like, whoa, what'd you do with my child? Right?
Yeah.
So, I'll go back to you are taking a chance on your young person to say, okay, I'm going to help you to try and achieve your goals and your dreams,
Yeah.
right? In that
Yeah.
sense. And
I love
so,
that.
in that grade 11, 12, it's like, go for it. Go
Go
for it.
for it.
You have
Yeah.
nothing to lose. Go for it. And then the
Go.
other thing, really quickly, it's just, sometimes, like I had a young man reach out to me recently, and I actually gave him the suggestion because he wanted to go to junior college, but he hasn't played ball in like almost 2 years. I'm like, son, collegiate ball, OCAA is very strong in Canada. Go play
Hmm.
OCAA for a year. You'll find you probably like it. If you really want to go to JUCO after that, then so be it,
Yep.
right? But go to collegiate ball here, and check it out. First of all, get into a routine, get into a rhythm of training and attending school, and see if you
Yes.
really want to continue this path of going to JUCO. If you can't, if you do, you can look to transfer then, for example,
Yep.
right? But give it a shot.
Okay. Now, talking about transfers, let's say I transition from regular high school and now I'm in prep school, and now I want to, you know, move into another one. For me as a parent, the first thing I'm thinking of, what are your grades, what are your academics, are your transcripts going to be working? Like in terms of your athlete recruiting services now, what are some of the
Yeah.
guidance that you guide each child or athlete in making sure that whether you're moving from one tier to another, that you're consistent and your information carries with you? Because the work ethic will be there, the athleticism is there, but talking about academics, because that's the key thing for me as a parent. I tell my kids,
Mhm.
you're a student and that's your job right now. Basketball is an addition to it. If you get the grades, treat the grades like it's money. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, in terms of transition from school to school to school, how does that hinder or support that particular child or athlete or student trying to get to whatever level they're getting into? Because it's hard, and I think a
Yeah.
lot of people are chasing this thing and not sure, and there's
Yeah.
always this transfer portal of people moving all the time. What's your
Yeah.
take on that or advice?
Yeah. So, if we start at the high school level, because when you talk about transfer portal, that is for the collegiate level,
Yeah.
right? In terms of NCAA. NCAA is technically who deals with transfer portal. Regarding prep school, for example, yeah, the trend has become kids are moving one, at least two times in high school before they get to the collegiate level. That's almost become the norm. I mean, the key is the program that you're looking to get into when you're going into these programs. And this is also another piece that sits on the website, coachmom.net, is questions to ask programs. For
Mm-hmm.
you to assess whether or not it's the right program. And academically is important, right? What type of support systems do you have to help me when we're traveling? Because the interesting part is some, student athletes that's in brick and mortar schools here in Canada, even prep schools, sometimes would really complain that sometimes I feel like the teachers are against me. Like I feel like they know I'm out playing a sport, and I'm trying to be conscientious. I'm maybe asking for a little extra time to get. And I mean, I think these young people are not being outrageous in terms of never handing in their work, but they would struggle with that because it almost seems like the rest of the school is like, because you're a ball player or a sports player, I'm not giving you anything additional.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate for young people that's needing the help and the support. But
Yeah.
yes, you connecting with the prep program and asking these very important questions regarding the transcript. The important things to remember is if you are looking to go, I mean, and if you stay in Ontario all this time,
Mm-hmm.
realistically you're working towards your high school diploma, so it goes to one portal, right, in the
Yeah.
Board of Education. If you are transferring, say, from here and going to the US in a prep school, the Canadian school is responsible, just like the US school would be, to send your transcript into the eligibility center. You don't send your transcript.
No.
It's the high school
Okay.
that either have their own account in the portal or they can mail it in to the NCAA, and it's the NCAA that calculates, for example, your GPA, etc. But the bottom line is the better your grades, the better your
The
opportunities
better
are,
it is. So
right?
go back
So,
to the books.
I push athletes, get that 80 plus. Those are 4.0 GPA plus, right? Fine. If you have a learning disability, yes, there is a pathway, of course, for
Mm-hmm.
you and a little bit of extra help for you as well. But buckle down and get the grades, and remember what you do in basketball is the same thing you should be doing in your academics. The same amount of time you want to practice is the same amount of time you need to put into your grades. Get in some
Yep.
study time, get some extra study time in, get a tutor if you
Yeah.
need help, if you need support to get those grades. So again, the same thing you're doing with basketball is the same mentality it should be for your academics as
For
well.
academics, yes, I 100,000% agree with that. So we talk about more of the coach mom side of it, but over the course of years, I think within last year or so, you birthed a new child, which is the
Yeah.
athlete recruiting services. So tell
Yeah.
us a little bit more about it. I know you probably said a lot of different other stuff as well too, but
Yeah.
for any one of those that are saying, "Oh my goodness, I like what she's saying. I want to talk to her more." How do I go about it? How do I send my information to her? How do we
Yeah.
connect? Tell us more about what the ARS stands for, how it came
Yeah.
about, and where it's going.
Yeah, so the athlete recruiting service, like many folks that had a lot of time during, or a little bit more time, I should say, during COVID, but it was a natural evolution for me in terms of getting into the collegiate level. If I, help you get to prep school, I can
Mhm.
certainly help you get to the collegiate level because of the relationships that I've formed with prep coaches as
Mhm.
well as collegiate coaches as well. So, what's special about ARS is really the people that are assisting you. So there's Brandon John, who is the director of recruitment. Brandon John has gotten recruited to Division One. He's actually finishing up his last year. Unfortunately, he's never played Division One. He's been injured this whole time.
Wow.
But he's found his other passion. And the
Yep.
passion was, when I connected with him to support with this, he was so eager and so interested. So he brings that athlete perspective
Mhm.
as well in terms of what to look for, right? When you go and visit and when you're speaking to the coaches in the programs as well.
I love
So,
that.
yeah, so that's a bit of the people side. And of course, our relationships that we have with collegiate level coaches as well. Next is this portal that was built, and this portal is very interactive, and you are also in charge of updating your information, uploading all your highlight tape, a bio of yourself. If
Yep.
I have worked with you in prep school, I also put a brief bio because a lot of coaches want to know that
Who you are.
recruiters that are working with, but even the recruiters that are working with the student athlete, do you even know the students? Like, do you really know them? Right.
Mhm.
So the fact that sometimes I've worked with a student athlete all the way from grade 8, all the way from grade 9, and now I'm putting them in like 5 years later, 4 years later, you bet you the coach is going to be like, okay, you understand about this young person, because other than how are your grades, and of course they see the highlight tape, the next question is, tell me about this young person. What are
Yeah.
they about? Who are
Yeah.
they?
Yeah.
The other piece with ARS is you actually have a recruiter working for you and with you. So it's
Okay.
not just so many of the other recruiting service. You interact with the platforms and you are responsible for reaching out to the coaches. We do that on your behalf,
Okay.
right? So we're working with you again and for you to get you in front of coaches. Now, what I like to say to folks regarding ARS, there is no doubt if your young person is going to prep school, your prep coaches and the program should be assisting them, providing exposure to get them to collegiate level.
Yes.
However, what I like to say here is they're not going to know every single coach out there. They're going to have, I'll say more than a handful, but they're going to
Mhm.
know coaches, but they're not going to know every coach at every level potentially, right? D1, low, mid major, high major, D1, for example, NAIAs for,
Yep.
Division 2, Division 3. So we are pounding the pavement essentially. So I say that, this recruiting service is an additional resources for your family. So really quickly, when my son was in prep school, I had joined a recruiting service because at the time I felt like, you know what, I feel like I just need to do a bit more, right? I need to do a bit more. And I wanted to go to subject matter experts who already had the relationship. Because at the end of the day, you can send out your information to coaches. Absolutely. The coaches also will need a reference, like, because
Yes.
everybody sends their highlight tape and their transcript and all their information. But who are you really? And
Yeah.
and are you who you say you are?
Yes.
Right? For
Authenticity.
example, so yeah, so they're going to reach out to maybe your prep coach, maybe your AAU coach, your rep coach, for example. So as a recruiting service, we become this additional resource for you. So it's,
Yeah.
it's not a conflict to also sign up for a recruiting service and being in a prep school. It's additional insurance.
Mhm.
The other frank thing I like to say is, your coaches may not work equally for every student athlete on the team. If there's 14, 15 kids, are they putting the same energy into everybody? Maybe not. I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm not here to accuse coaches, but I'm saying maybe not.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
now, this is an additional insurance that somebody's working on your behalf as well, and not necessarily relying on only one source. To have multiple source helping you to
Mhm.
get to your goal can never hurt.
It's great. Okay. And to sign up for this, is there a fee or is it
Yes,
a
there is a charge.
process?
Yes,
Okay.
there's a charge. So yeah, if you go to arecruits.com,
Hmm.
everything I do on everything in terms of the charges is very transparent. It's on the website. Just
Okay.
like on the prep side, coachmom.net, everything, all the packages that I offer is on there. I always think it's important for people to see everything, right?
Yeah,
To then,
I agree.
yeah, to then, make a decision in terms of, is this something that we want to do? Is this something we can afford to do? And here, guess what? I mean, we have payment plans and we'll work with you, right? At the
Hmm.
end of the day, to get you that support. No ifs, ands, or buts. We know that money does not grow on tree, but we also invest a lot of time, right? And
Yes.
that's something that I will never be ashamed of. I invest a lot of time in student athletes and making
Yeah.
sure, we help them get to their goals.
I like that. And yes, yes, you do. I will attest to that. You are very honest, very thoughtful, and like I will say, straight to the point and very caring. So if there's anyone here that you're looking for that additional, even just a simple consultation to see where you are, definitely reach out to Sharon and get that information out. But I wanted to just ask another question with regards to the recruiting aspect of it,
Mm-hmm.
especially with the ARS side of it. Are you only looking for athletes who are in prep school to sign up and join? Or do you recommend, as kids as early as 11, 12 years old to even sign up and put their information there first in the portal? Say, hey, just so you know, my info is there. When I get older, I'll update it. Or like what level or what age would you
Yeah.
recommend people to start putting their data on your service?
Yeah, that's a good question. And you technically have to become a client before you can access our portal, first of
Okay.
all. And yeah, we can start. So technically, collegiate level recruitment, especially focusing a bit on the US side, a coach can start reaching out to you at the end of your sophomore year, essentially. So that's the end of grade 10. They can start
Great.
reaching out to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so so it's not too early in terms of grade 10, 11 to start to reach out in terms of and get in your information, because don't forget, you're also getting this additional support, right? In terms
Mhm.
of, we'll tell you when, same thing on the prep side, right? So typically clients will sign up on the prep side and then they'll go on to ARS. You are getting information. We are there with you. Now it's time to sign up for the eligibility center. Now it's time for your school. We are also, on the prep side, particularly calculating, tracking your GPA. That's something that's
Wow.
really important, because unfortunately, I've had student athlete come to me and say, hey, Coach Mom, can you help me get to, and they're already in a prep school. So it's like, okay, so do you know what stream you're going to? And it's like, yeah, no, I want to go D1, D2. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't take the right courses, so you can't even try to go D1, D2 right now. You're
Good point.
streaming JUCO, junior college, or you're streaming in terms of, you can still get into university here in
Hmm.
Canada, but stateside, because you took certain courses, you can't get into D1, D2 right away, right? With that. So we are also teaching you and giving you and providing you information. So
Wow.
really helping you navigate, and we're literally figuring this stuff out for you. And of course, as things happen, we'll get the answers for you and teach you and educate you in the process.
I like that. Wow. So you're not alone. You're not just going in there, putting information into the bucket and hope that Coach Mom is just going to magically do everything. I like the structure of questioning. And I always say, I think you were like the very first person I heard you coin that whole student athlete, because everyone's like, oh, I'm a baller, I'm an athlete, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, you are a student first. You're an athlete second.
Yeah, yeah,
And once you understand that I guess work really well together. So always, always kudos to you for emphasizing that, especially from a parent's perspective, that I know that if you're working with my child, we have that clarity that school first, you understand the specific courses that you're taking,
yeah.
and you understand the specific path to take to get to there, which you said, even though there's multiple different ways. So I think it's awesome. Now, with the whole ARS and the Coach Mom aspect of it,
Mhm.
What is your age gap level in terms of athlete level that you say, okay, I can't help you anymore now. You're an adult side of it, maybe there's another path forward. Because there might be some that be like, I'm 17, 18, I'm not there now. My time is up. And, they're just deflated and they're not sure what to do because for whatever reason. Like, is there a
Mhm.
specific time cut off when it comes to the age or the athlete age that you don't work with?
Yeah, no, it's, typically when you are trying to aspire to play collegiate ball, right? Like you said, the prep side is high school, right? So for
Mm-hmm.
those that might be here that don't understand the language, that's high school. Prep school is high school.
Yeah.
There's a cutoff age with respect to, NCAA, right? In terms of, when you need to get in by, and it's funny because a few young men last year or this year for the showcase had reached out and they wanted to come to prep showcase, but they're already 20 years old. I'm like, no, no, you're too old. You're too old for
Yeah.
prep for high school. You should be looking at the collegiate level, for
Collegiate.
example. Yeah, because NAIA, JUCO, right? You can still be, older and still, enter those pieces. So really, the cutoff is about the individual and where they are. And what they've decided to do. Yes, you're right. I've had some young people that are like, yeah, you know what? I'm good. One, I just feel like I'm not getting where I want to get, or you know what? I found another passion, another route through sports. And it's not
Yes.
to play anymore. I want to coach, or I want
Yeah.
to become, a videographer, or I want to become an entrepreneur, or I want to become an agent, like,
Hmm.
or I want to become an artist. But
Yeah.
again, the discipline that they've learned, through being a student athlete is going to help any young person,
I
right, in
agree.
any
Yeah.
endeavor that that they're trying to do. So yeah, I mean, normally we get a sense before they hit 20, before they
Okay.
finish high school, what
Okay.
path they're going to be taking, after that. Because some people might say, most student athletes aren't talking about a gap year because that doesn't typically happen, right, in
Yeah.
that sense. So if somebody's going that way, then it's like, okay, not sure if they're that interested anymore, or they just need to figure it out. And then, and if that's the case, I said, listen, when you figure it out, if you've signed up with
Yeah.
myself, ARS, we're always here. Come on back. We'll, talk about what's possible, what's next.
There's always a way. Okay. One other key point, and I know some parents have asked before, especially with highlight reels, and I always ask this.
Mm-hmm.
So you are working with an athlete, you're trying to reach out and work with a coach, and you want to send, their information to the coach. They're in your portal. You have all of that. You have videos added, and I believe you had posted certain things, especially with what to put on your profile. And with
Mm-hmm.
that profile, I was looking at, I'm like, okay, that's great. Now, once I click it and I have all these links, especially on Instagram or let's say YouTube, and I'm clicking videos and all I hear is cuss words. Like, I'm not that old, but if you could just touch base a little bit on it for those who are watching, it's great to be cool and hip.
Mm-hmm.
However, the marketability of yourself when it comes to sending these videos to say, look at me. What are some of the key points that people should
Yeah.
be aware of to make sure that that 30 seconds speaks the best of them?
Yeah. Um, Remember that you are, I'm going to say, a brand.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that the school, whether it be prep school or the collegiate level, post-secondary, is also a brand. Everybody wants
Mm-hmm.
to protect their image. So, for
Yes.
example, when you are being recruited, prep school and beyond, they want to make sure you are the right fit for that environment, right? So, privately, if you want to be sitting there and listening to certain music, fine, go for it. However, you cannot put that out publicly. Because what does that say to coaches? But Gifty, I swear, I walked into a gym the other day. I won't say what province it was. You should have heard the music blaring, and no one looked startled but me. I was looking around the gym like mouth opened. I was so, I mean, it's blaring,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
cuss word, N word, you name it.
No
And I was
radio version at all.
no radio version. It was absolutely
Oh my
incredible.
gosh.
But coaches don't want to see that.
No.
Coaches do not want to hear that at all.
No.
I've even encouraged folks, if you're going to make a highlight reel, make it instrumental. Make it with
Thank
instrumental
you.
music. You can still get the hip hop instrumental, right?
Yeah.
But you can't send, and you can't bleep out the words because they know what it is. So you can't lower the volume on that. So
Yeah.
just remember, you are representing yourself, you're
Mm-hmm.
representing your families,
Yeah.
you're representing, and now you're hoping to represent, when you put on a school uniform, hello,
Yeah.
you are representing that institution. So
Yeah.
of course they want to make sure there's the best representative than ever. So yeah, you've got to keep that clean. I have, some young people follow me that are not even clients, and that's okay. And, I see something and I'm like, oh, I'm curious because you follow me, I follow you. And I'm like, whoa, I
Yeah.
go into their DM. I'm like, take that down, young man.
Yep.
If you're really serious about ball,
I've
you are
done that
not going to keep that up. And
many
they're like, oh,
times.
sorry, coach. Sorry, coach. I'm like, just go clean it up immediately. You're not helping yourself at all.
No,
They're like,
especially
okay,
if your account is public, for sure, for sure. Because,
exactly,
like I
exactly.
said, if the image you give out is not who you intend to be, then don't give that image out. Give out who you are and be authentic on that. So thank you for that. Because for those who are joining later, honestly, if you're going to do a highlight video, be professional about it. Work on the music, work on the language, and just make it about you in a way that somebody that sees it will say, yes, I want to work with this person. I want them in my circle. And I always say, even when I'm learning somebody's language, I don't ever want to hear you teach me a bad word. I want you to teach me how to say hello. Because if I meet somebody from that culture, I don't want to insult them. I want to say
Right.
hello. So just being aware of the words and the language that we use is so key. And I always make sure that I do the same thing. If I see somebody, I go and I'm like, this is not good. Either do it or
Yeah.
you get blocked. So
Yeah.
thank you for
Yeah.
emphasizing on that, because you are in that realm where you are watching the videos. You may not go to everybody's game, but you are watching and you are trying to do that connection to that particular team or school or coach to see if that is the right one. And that becomes your image that you're representing too. If it's not the right, conversation that we're having there. So for those watching, especially the parents, yes, it's fine in the car, but not in the videos.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
clean,
And I
clean,
mean, and
clean.
this goes for life, right? It goes for
Yep.
life. It goes for when the ball stops bouncing and you get to the workplace. You can't be blaring them music, you know what I mean, in your
No.
work environment. You want to do it at home, personally,
Right.
privately, absolutely knock yourself out. But you
Yep.
can't be doing that in the workplace either. So it's the same concept,
I
exactly the same
agree.
concept.
From our side, in terms of parents, and I will speak for
Hmm.
parents who know very little, because I can only speak to the level that I'm at. Um, how can they connect with you? How can they reach out to you? Of course, I will tag it to go to your website,
Hmm.
which has a lot of information. Print it out. They're like 2 to 3 pages. Read it. And that's the first thing when I came across you. I printed up, gave
Hmm.
each one to the boys. I gave it to them to read. I gave them questions. Say, come back and tell me how do you understand how this works. Even before there was a ballroom, I was like,
Yeah.
just understand this is how it works. You don't just get up and end up in the school in the States or ends up in MBA or go to Europe. So from a parent whose kid is in the house league, they're looking to try to
Hmm.
get into, competitive, and they're dreaming this far. What are some other things that they can use by going on your site or connecting with you as initial questionnaires or things that they should be thinking of that before they reach to you and say, okay, Coach Mom, I did I did my research, I did my
Hmm.
story. Can we take the next step? So some things that you want them to be aware of before even reaching out to you so that you can work together.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's really simple in the sense of if you reach out
That's
and
the
ask the
question.
question.
Yeah. Can you repeat that? Because I think
Again,
you were getting a call and then
oh,
you got
so
muted.
sorry.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
I was. Yeah, I was gonna say even before you necessarily reaching out to me doesn't automatically mean we end up working
No.
together. I have a ton of people that will reach out, ask me questions. I answer questions, and they're like, okay, we'll talk to you. Sometimes I see them a year later and they become client because now
Yeah.
they're like, okay, we're ready, right?
Yeah.
We weren't ready before, but we're ready.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't even have to necessarily, research me first because the intent is, my kid's in grade 5, grade 6, and I'm going to go work with you right away. Still call and ask the questions. I'm happy to
Yes.
guide you in that sense, right?
Yes.
The key is, again, it's a long, long, long
Journey.
process. It
Yep.
is such a massive journey. And so understanding and phasing it, right? Phase one,
Mm-hmm.
my kid isn't, wants to play a rep. What do I, well, let's find a league.
Find a team.
Make sure
Yeah.
they're having fun, right?
Yeah.
Make sure that the program aligns with you and your vision as well as your philosophy as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you know
Mm-hmm.
your kid is a certain way and all of a sudden a coach is hollering at them, like, listen, I'm not a proponent necessarily. It's some kids can take certain things and some people can't at the end of
Yeah.
the day. But if you know your kid is terrified of even somebody raising their voice and they're in this environment, that's for you to decide, yeah, maybe that's not the right environment for my child. Let me see what else is there.
Yes.
Now let's face it, later on, they're going to get hollering at. That's just a fact. So we've got to fortify, as long as they're not being attacked in terms of their mental health and
Mm-hmm.
well-being, listen to the message, don't listen to the volume, right? So to
Yeah.
speak.
I like
But
that.
yeah. So, I mean, still reach out and ask your question. Again, I'm a connector, so if I don't know the answer, I can easily connect you with somebody depending on what the question is.
Yes.
Again, coachmom.net, the website is there for the prep side, and for the collegiate side, it's arecruits.com. There's all the email addresses in there that you can reach out.
Mm-hmm.
I find people go on social media first, so I don't even almost send websites as much. Go on the social media, for
Yeah.
example, and then all the links are there for the email addresses as well as the website if you're interested in learning more. And maybe
Mm-hmm.
just follow for a while, see the messaging to
Yeah.
go, okay, yeah, she's actually saying things that I have questions about. So you have
Mm-hmm.
an understanding of the work that I do, just like you do in terms of sharing other agencies and organizations, Gifty, right? It's that,
Yeah.
like, I'll follow to go, oh, that's really good. Yes, I didn't know I needed that. Perfect. But yeah,
Follow
still
through.
still
Yeah.
reach out and ask the question as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So she's definitely approachable, which I appreciate for that and your time. Um, I'm gonna round off
Hmm.
before I give you the last word and say, is there anything that you need from my Baltimore community or even in the wider world that we can do to support you? Because you give so much back. What can we do to support you?
Yeah. I mean, I absolutely adore, you know, people and young people and them getting to their dreams and goals. Again, whatever that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm here as that resource. I think it's important also that families also need to listen. Sometimes they're reaching out and they're asking the question, they're getting the responses, but they're not really hearing the response.
Yeah.
And so for me, I encourage you to really actively listen and pay attention, because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes there are clues all around you, whether this is a great program, not a good program, whatever the case may be. This is the best environment, this isn't such a great environment. Like, the clues are there, right? So
Yep.
sometimes we need to expand and just really, I like to say, actively listen, right? Because the information's there. And I sometimes I still get amazed that I'm like, how are people not under? And it's like, yeah, we are one organization. It doesn't mean we're
Yep.
worldwide. It doesn't mean everybody knows us, but it still baffles me. Sometimes when people get themselves in situations, you're like, how do we not know? And then I stopped myself and I said, nope, that's on you as well, Sharon, to keep pumping out, keep promoting, keep sharing your information.
It
I'm always,
helps.
it does. And I'm also grateful because it's, a lot of it comes through word of mouth, even from yourself, Gifty, as parents are hearing more about, Coach Mom and the work that I do, or ARS and the work that myself and Brandon's doing. Word of mouth is extremely powerful.
Great.
There's no
Yeah.
doubt. But yeah, for me, it's, if you're going to ask the question and you're going to do the research, it's also to pay attention to it.
Pay attention. Yes. Okay. So that's a good message out there. Student first, athlete second, pay attention. I like that. And I think you also mentioned a good quote, which I'm going to quote there. Listen to the message, not the volume.
Yeah.
Yes. So don't get mad if the coaches are yelling, because sometimes I'm like, oh, thank God it's them yelling, not me, because,
Yeah.
sometimes
No, it can be intimidating. There's no doubt. Like, hey,
it's
listen, have
okay.
I
I think
hollered
so.
at
You know
players?
what? I
Yes.
think the
Yeah.
kids listen better when you're yelling. When I talk in my regular voice, it's all when I'm yelling, they're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So kudos to that. Listen to the message,
Message,
not the
yeah,
volume. I
yeah.
appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Hmm.
Now, last question, just to run up
Yeah.
and get you all shaded, cool out.
Hmm.
Um, what is your favorite current song or movie right now?
Oh gosh. Um, uh, Favorite movie right now. Gosh, I got a lot of favorite movies. I love the Marvel movies that come out. Yes, I'm a mother of boys.
Me
So we we
too.
we do the Marvels. I'm looking forward to Spider-Man
Spider-Man.
movie coming out. I really
Yeah,
am for
yeah,
sure. Saw Black Widow the other day. I thought that was really
yeah.
good as well. Um, yeah, I'm going to say one of my all-time favorites, though, definitely have to be Armageddon. I love that movie.
Armageddon.
Bruce Willis,
Okay.
yes. Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, great. They just celebrated, like, I think 20 something years ago, not long ago. They were talking about it on the radio. Made me feel old, but whatever. It's okay.
I know. Every time it comes on, I watch it. I love it. I
Yeah,
absolutely love it.
yeah. Oh, great. So thank you
Hmm.
so much, Sharon. I will definitely tag you, make sure that everybody knows your link, your website for both services at the prep
Hmm.
level and collegiate level. And I appreciate all the work that you're doing, and especially educating us parents and not just thinking of, them just shooting to the star, which is great, but the steps to get there. And you're
Yeah.
walking with
Hmm.
each child, with each family. Like it's not an easy thing, but we are so appreciative of that work. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank
Well,
you.
thank you, Gifty,
Yeah.
for giving me this platform to be able to speak as well. I see you sharing, again, a lot of agencies and organizations that are out there sharing their information. This is also how people get to learn about those things as well. So thank you
No
for all
problem.
that you're doing to help families as well and parents, particularly navigating this whole world of sports.
Yeah. It's a fun world. It's a fun world when we work together. It's what I always say. So thank you
Absolutely.
so much. I will end here,
Alrighty.
and thank you to everybody that joined in, and hopefully everybody get a good rest of their evening back. Have a good
Alrighty.
night.
Take care. Good night,
Bye.
everybody. Bye bye.